People love lists, and that's why to-do lists are still such a staple in people's lives, even though for most people a to-do list doesn't necessarily cause you to get anything done, but they make people feel better because lists are neat and orderly ideas that seem to make an overwhelming or a complicated process or set of steps very simple. So creating list type posts are huge for getting other folks to link to your blog, because they tend to love the 10 tips for da 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 within your niche kinds of posts. And those kinds of posts are heavily shared on social networking sites too, which you know from module 1 is going to be and is becoming more and more important for your Google rankings. So they're a good kind of post to use from time to time for that reason as well. So let's take a look at 2 different examples of list posts, and we'll check out the elements that make them successful. So this is a classic list post that was published on Copyblogger. It's 16 smarter ways to use LinkedIn to build your business. And it's just that. It's 16 simple and smarter ways that you can use LinkedIn to build your business. And as you can see in this list post, they give a short introduction, and then it's broken up into areas to start with. So it's saying start with your profile, and there's 9 items in that. And then now you're ready to start promoting your business, and the rest of the items are under that section of the list. And each item on the list, as you'll notice here, it has a title like "Don't Get Clever with Your Picture," and then it has an explanation of exactly what they mean by that. And you'll see that you are able to, because the bolding and everything, you can skim this pretty quickly and get a quick idea of what this is about. And for anything that you're unsure about, of course, you can read the actual text for the item and get clarification. So this is a super classic list post by Copyblogger. Now over here is a list post that I did, 114 likes on Facebook, and I think 114 comments as well. So I think it did pretty well. And this was a WordPress tutorial for internet marketers. And what I did was I published my WordPress installation checklist that I use with my outsourcers. And this is literally how they are instructed to put up new websites. And so I go through and talk about all of the different settings that needs to be changed when one sets up WordPress, the different plugins to install, how to configure those plugins, and that kind of thing. And those are all in the bullet points. Now, I should have done a better job of formatting this so that it was more attractive. I mean, this is kind of big blocks of links and text that are sort of difficult to read. And that's something that you can see over here. This is much more pleasant to look at and read, so I would have done better had I done that. What I literally did here was copy and paste the set of instructions that I give my outsourcers to put together a site. So I didn't spend time on the formatting. I should have, though. It would have made it a nicer post. But anyway, people can go through here. They can copy my exact process. People can go through this LinkedIn post. They can copy these exact steps to improve their LinkedIn profile, to create a process for installing WordPress. And that's what lists are about. They're about creating processes, making things duplicatable, making things easy, chunking things down into small steps so that you can create a bigger effect in the end. And that's why people love them so much. You can do a standalone list post like you saw in those 2 examples, mine and Copyblogger's, but you can also riff off the other types of posts that we're covering in Module 3 and make lists out of them. So let's take a predictions post, for example, and you could make a list out of it and call it 10 predictions for the next 12 months. And that might make a more interesting headline and a more interesting way of formatting the post and structuring your information than if you just wrote out your predictions in different paragraphs. And the truth is that the headline alone with numbers in it, which a lot of list posts tend to do, it piques curiosity in your readers. It causes people to click through and read your stuff. And that's your ultimate goal, right? Now lists, because they're also broken up into steps or bullet points, that's what makes them a list. And so they're easier for people to digest. You can consider a 10,000 word essay versus the Cliff Notes. Lists are the Cliff Notes of information. And people like the idea of being able to get these 5 or 10 pointers that'll get them set in the right direction. Lists are also actionable, which is another reason that people love them and share them. So let's look at some specific ideas for you and list posts that you can create. So So we've got top 10 books or top 5 books, all these numbers I just threw in here to give you an idea of what a headline might be like. But of course, you can change the number for how many you find in your own niche. But the top 10 books, what are some really great books that people should be reading in your niche? The 5 common newbie mistakes that are made in your niche. What are the mistakes that you see people making most often? What are the things that you see when people respond to your comments and respond in comments and you're like, oh my gosh, why are they doing it that way? That kind of thing. Talk about the top newbie mistakes that are made. Or turn it around on yourself and bring a little bit of your personality into things by making it the 3 biggest mistakes that you've made in this niche and the lessons that you learned from them. You could do something like 7 unlikely heroes, and you could highlight newbies or people who don't necessarily seem like the poster children for the niche. So if you're in knitting, you could take a big burly fireman who's a knitter and talk about him. Something like that. That's a juxtaposition. It's unlikely, but it's interesting. You could do something like the 12 best videos in the niche on YouTube and curate that sort of content and put it into a list for people to find and appreciate. Like we talked about, you could take a predictions post and turn it into a list instead of just a straight up predictions. You can talk about reasons why I'm switching to ... and that might be a different mountain bike brand, or it might be a different to-do list app, or whatever the case may be, a different chapstick. But you could talk about the reasons, 5 reasons why I'm switching to ... whatever that might be in your niche. And that could be a particularly timely topic if there are new products coming out. So let's look at iPad 1 versus iPad 2. Here's 7 reasons why I'm switching to the iPad 2. It would arouse interest in your audience if that was your audience. 20 must-have tools. People always love tools. People always love something that they think is going to make the job easier for them and that hopefully does make the job easier for them. So you could talk about the 20 must-have tools, implements, items that people could have in your particular niche that would help them get their job done or help them work in their hobby or passion more effectively. You can talk about 4 ways that the industry is changing and talk about different press releases, different products, the ways that companies are moving, and the change that you see going on in your industry as a whole. And again, just put it into a list format as opposed to a giant piece with thick paragraphs that sometimes people stray away from on the internet because they like sound bites. Keep lists in your back pocket and use them when you really want to grab people's attention because overused, they can lose their luster. So when you do make them really, really excellent because they have such a great potential to stand out and be linked by other folks and get popular within the social sphere.